Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Today we are going vintage and I am going to use lace on this art journal page. So let's get started. This is my Faces journal. It is a flyer pamphlet from a hardware store that I put a coat of gesso in. I haven't used this in probably over a year. But today's the day. I'm going to use this face that comes from supercoloring.com. It's free domain, free to use. You print it down. This is the original size, and as you can see, I've sized it down. I have multiple sizes so I can match it exactly to the page. Now, because there's green and orange on this one side, I grabbed this rice paper from Ninny's Napkins. This is their own brand of rice paper. They now have their own brand, so go and check it out. There is a link in the description box below and a coupon code. This is Garden Glory number 3. And while the colors match the other side, there's a lot of white space on this, and it's not looking particularly vintage in my mind. It's the beginnings of vintage, but that's okay because that's where I can bump up the vintage feel. First things first though, let's glue this down with a generous dose of fluid matte medium. You want to have good coverage. You don't want to have any air bubbles. And I use my brayer to get good adhesion. I'm just going to cut off the excess here. And that is just going into my bin, and I'll be able to use it on another art journal page at some point in time. So to make this a non-porous surface, I am giving this a coat of the Crafter's Workshop Clear Gesso. I was a little late to the party on clear gesso, but I really like how it turns the surface and prepares it for whatever's coming. Now I want to start adding some vintage, and postmarks seem to be quite often what you see on vintage. So I have this set from Bo Bunny. I'm not sure if it's even available anymore, but look for one with postage stamps, different sizes. And that's what I'm putting on here. And I'm just using my black archival ink. There's a postage stamp, and I'm typically putting in groups of 3. Postmark sign. And as I start filling up the space, it's feeling more vintage to me. This is a stamp from Stamperia. It's a music collection. Music notes is also something you often see on some vintage papers. Putting my girl on there. I have 2 sizes. I've yet to decide which one. I'm masking off the other side and stamping that one so it's kind of off the page. Then I decide I need some script. Again, very common that there's script, old script, on vintage, and I've filled up a lot of that white space, and I'm much happier with it right now. What do you think? It's definitely pushed the rice paper into a background, and that's what I'm using it. So my use it and lose it cards I have for supplies that I found in my stash that I haven't been using. So I've given myself a year, 6 months to figure out if I'm going to use it or if I'm going to stop storing it. So I pulled out a piece of this lace, cut it a little bit extra. Now I can colorize it with acrylic paints, but I want that color, kind of the peachy color, so I grabbed my Inktense blocks. Now they're ink, and I'm making a puddle and just soaking it in, adding a little bit of water, and they're perfect for dyeing this, and they dry a little bit faster and a little bit less messy than using acrylic paints. But if all you have is acrylic paints, you can use those. I'm adding a little bit of yellow in here to match the colors that are in that rice paper. So I'm letting that dry, and then I was going to wipe it up, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to smoosh onto the page. And this just grunged it up, made it a little bit more vintage. And I absolutely love how that looks. It just dirtied it up and got that pristine white out of here. So I'm going to just lay the lace there. Now that size or that size. I am leaning towards the larger girl now that I have all my things picked out. And because I don't want to see the rice paper peeking through the napkin, I'm giving it a coat of gesso. And I got a little bit too much, so try wiping it off and giving it a good dry before I move on. But now you can see the pattern of the lace, which is part of it. You want the texture and that. Here I'm adding unbleached titanium, just again to get rid of that pristine white. There, that's looking much better. Now there's that yellow rose, which is just more color in the background than an actual rose, and I'm just adding a little bit of Naples yellow here and there. I'm just rubbing it on, and because it has that clear gesso on it, it blends on there very easily. Then I'm putting a little bit of that yellow also underneath where the lace will be glued down. I love how the lace is the color of that rose or peony, I'm not sure what it is, on the top left hand side. So I grab my gel medium and I'm putting a generous amount because I want to really glue the lace on here. Now this will dry clear, and then I'm just pressing the lace into the gel medium to have it adhere on. And I'm putting a little bit on the top as well, just to seal it all. Love, love, love. Look at that vintage grunge. Doesn't it look great? So now we want to colorize the face. And I am mixing some Naples yellow, orange, and alizarin crimson with some white gesso to make a flesh tone. You can add brown, you can add more of one color, and get whatever flesh color for the flesh tone you prefer. And as I put it on the raw copy paper, it's soaking in and not going on very easy. And I remembered that I like you giving my printables that are just on copy paper a coat of clear gesso. This turns them into a non-porous surface, and it makes the paint, when I'm colorizing it, go on so much easier. And I find I get less wrinkles and it doesn't pill. So now I'm just going to paint the entire face with this. I know I'm going to do some shading later on. I'm not sure at this point whether I'm going to add flowers to her hair or leave her hair as it is, so I'm kind of delaying that decision. After giving it a quick dry, I'm ready to glue it on, but then I decide, hey, you know, I want some more of that pattern from the lace to come up, so I'm getting a little bit of alizarin crimson on the pad of my finger, and I'm rubbing it on the high points and colorizing it, and this is bringing out the texture. So you have texture, pattern, and lace just goes vintage. Gluing that down with gel medium. And just smoothing it out on the face. I don't care if there's texture in the hair, but I want the face to be fairly smooth. Now I'm taking yellow oxide, and I believe that's burnt umber, and I'm painting the hair. I've decided I'm going to go a little bit dark, but I want that same burnt umber yellow that's in the background to be in the hair, so everything works together. And again, I'm drawing in between every layer. Now I'm shading around the face with brown and a little bit of black to make the girl stand out. I'm going to also be adding highlights and shading to her hair. I'm using my Inktense block to give her a little blush on her cheeks and to colorize her lips. Let it dry and then build up the color. Now I'm using some black to add shading into her hair. Her eyebrows. Now I'm using some green Inktense block and coloring her eyes because there's that green in the background, so I wanted it to go. Adding a little bit of green to the more green to the background in some of those spots. Edging by shading all the way around with black. If you like my videos, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and be sure to select the option to be notified of upcoming videos. Leaving a comment, giving me a thumbs up, all lets YouTube know that you like my channel and it gets played more, and that helps me build my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Close-ups of the finished page are coming soon. Until next time, go get creative.